So we are here, and where we are is just casting a game. Surprise, surprise. In the blue, we've got Xiao Hai. Now, there was one single commenter that said I'm mispronouncing this, and I just spoke to people here. It basically said, I'm doing a pretty good job, so I apologize if Xiao Hai is incorrect. Someone said treat the X like a J or something, so it's like Xiao Hai. I mean, seems similar to me. I love this player. I've known this player for years. Obviously, I haven't really spoken to him, so maybe he could tell me how to pronounce it if I were to ask him. But really fun player who likes to go pick civ. Will play games all the time. Is a Chinese player who loves to play as the Chinese, Mongols, or Huns with very little deviation from that. And it seems like the flavor of the last 2 or 3 months has been Huns for Xiao Hai. In fact, I casted Xiao Hai last week. Anyways, he's playing as the Huns. And then we have McLuffy, who is a Belgian player who I don't think has hit the YouTube channel recently, but I have casted him before. And this is a player who has some occasional inactivity, but then can come back. And when he comes back, he's normally around like 2K, 2100. And most likely what happened here was McLuffy had selected what he considered to be like really solid civilization in case his opponent didn't want to go random and ended up with the Chinese. So this is a pick civ situation for blue, and then a pick civ situation for McLuffy. But knowing McLuffy, he does definitely likes to play a lot of random civilization, as a lot of Arabia players do. So let's see. So very interesting map gens, actually, with the way the wood lines and the golds are positioned. So McLuffy's going to need all the food he can get at the start because Chinese start with 0 of it. But look at all the wood back here. Like, this is a heavily wooded base on the backside. The problem will be the berries and the gold are on the front. So I feel like I'd prefer to have more wood lines forward and maybe an extra gold or snow in the back. But it's not bad if you protect the front of your base. I mean, you can boom up here like crazy later on. For Xiao Hai, on the other hand, you have a back berries and then back golds, and then you have the more forward woods. But again, this is as balanced as things should be. You wouldn't want a situation where everyone's got safe everything, so there's pros and cons to every map gen. And thank God, I know people have given these ideas before. I did actually cast this before as well. It was many years ago, but thank God the map gens aren't mirrored. Isn't that the case with some other esports, like other RTS games, where the maps are pretty much the same for both players? And at least in my experience, now, it wasn't that many games, and like anything, you would need to really test it to get a strong feel for it, but it just turned into a scenario where you wouldn't even need to scout your opponent's base at all because you're like, well, their map gen's going to be this. They're probably going to do this. I'll just do that. Really like the RNG aspects, as awkward as it can sometimes be with Age of Empires. You've got to scout. Okay, so we've got 4 on wood here for Xiao Hai. Normally these days indicates an earlier barracks. And then McLuffy is with 4 on wood at the moment. McLuffy bringing in a boar. Didn't count, but I think McLuffy pushed in 2 deer. One of the only weaknesses of the Chinese is... Okay, there you go. Nice save. Really, one of the only weaknesses for the Chinese is just the fact they don't start with food, so early feudal is awkward for them. And Xiao Hai is going to take this fight. And Xiao Hai knows that one of 2 things are going to happen. Either McLuffy runs away, or McLuffy sends a Vil, and then you just run with your scout if you're Xiao Hai. And Xiao Hai did, however, took an additional hit, and now is on the hill, and McLuffy's like, we don't want that. Xiao Hai's going to leave now, and I guess McLuffy's going to chase. Okay, so I would personally expect scouts from the Huns. But it doesn't look like we're going to see that. There's that barracks I talked about. We're going to have the mining camp here for Xiao Hai. I know the mining camp looks a little bit weird, but it's actually a fine mining camp. I think I would normally place mine here. So these 3 tiles are more efficient right off the bat. But once this tile is gone, these 3 are going to be very efficient. So might actually have more longevity. Xiao Hai doesn't have the best of scouting. But McLuffy is a little terrified. You can tell McLuffy's like, ooh, man. Don't know exactly what he's going to do here. And he's just being super greedy. I have played McLuffy a lot. He's the definition of a player who has insane amounts of talent, but doesn't do the small things like the 2200s need to these days, which is why he falls around here. Like scouting your opponent, the timing on that. How many do they have on wood? How many do they have on that? It's not that McLuffy doesn't do those things, right? But it's not as consistent as it sometimes needs to be, because ultimately having a high elo comes down to consistency. Now, Xiaohai's in Feudal first. It would have been interesting there, because both scouts would have been 2 hits away from death. We're going to see McLuffy add the barracks now. Doesn't really know what his opponent's up to, but Xiaohai will find out the berries are here, and uh-oh, this could be a problem. This is McLuffy's situation, and McLuffy's going to see this. And this is what I talked about, though. McLuffy's talented enough to just say, okay, we're fine. A little bit of damage control. And actually gets a hit on that scout there. Runs away, quick walls. Very good stuff from McLuffy. But going for a stable, and the base is not quite as structured as you would want it to be, right? Now, the important things you need to look for when you're watching a game like this is what's the idle time like? So, the idle time stopped here right away. Villagers working here right away. You got an idle here, but it's not too bad. And, well, actually, it is kind of awkward, right? These villagers needs to be retasked. This villager gets retasked. All that, and now 1 scout's on the way. And in my experience, going scouts after seeing the man-at-arms at your base in this situation is normally not the most ideal situation. Because you still need to have, like, let's say 4 scouts to be able to engage against this. So, look at Xiaohai. Xiaohai says, well, okay, I'm going to make that a little more difficult. I've got a spearman running forward. We'll lose the scout, however, and some great walls here again from McLuffy. He's being super patient. There is no archer range yet for Xiaohai. So, Xiaohai is not following this up, with a lot of heavy pressure. Has even pulled one of those villagers off of gold and just said, I'm not going to need the gold. The villagers and the scouts want to work together against this army, but now you've got 1 spearman and 3 men-at-arms, and this is just going to be so awkward to fight. Goes in for the spear first, and with the villagers, it should be okay, I guess. Still think Xiaohai will be somewhat okay with this. You've taken out quite a few scouts. But you have to be scared because the Chinese farms have a lot of food on them. The Chinese techs are cheaper, and the Chinese have now survived the stage of the game they are the weakest in. Walling back here from McLuffy, walling over here from McLuffy, but I think some of this walling is because McLuffy's scared there will be a follow-up of some kind. And instinctively, McLuffy's going to go for an archer range, but again, this is lack of scouting, right? Like, there's no army coming from Xiaohai, and Xiaohai is just like, please don't find me. Please don't find me. Please don't find me. No offense, by the way, guys. No offense, but I feel like this is 60% of you guys after a man-at-arm play. I don't know. Like, a lot of you might not even play the game. I don't know. You guys could be aliens on planet whatever, for all I know, because I have no ways of proving whatever. But I just think this is a funny thing that I see at mid-elo a lot. Normally, the lack of a follow-up is an issue, but McLuffy just doesn't know. Because every other game, it's going to be man-at-arm archers. So here he is, made a skirm. And there's the scouts now. You're from Neptune? See, exactly. See, I would have never guessed that. Now, what is funny here is, oh god, there's an overchop. Never mind, that's been fixed. The walls being up is not the problem for McLuffy. The problem is McLuffy still has to think that there could be archers out there. So you're still making skirmishers. And I don't know if this is intentional, but I love showing the blacksmith. Because, again, if I were in McLuffy's shoes and I saw that blacksmith, I would say, oh crap, he's definitely going to have archers soon. I need to make more skirmishers. Obviously, you need some protection to take this gold. It's not like McLuffy will have a bad castle age time, but this scout is the scout that's looking to find an army. This scout is just going to scout the rest of the map for now. Just switch to archers at that point, to be honest, because you know your opponent's going to send a spear forward, is what Duve said a couple minutes ago. The problem is like, adding the range, and let's say a mining camp is wood that you could use for farms. So it's really complicated to get that timing down. But man, this is just a classic strategy. I've talked about Jiao Hai a lot the last couple weeks. It's just like he plays classic civs and classic strats. Mongols into cav archers and Mangadai. And here he's going to go Huns and he's going to go cav archers. But I don't know. I'm not a big fan of him adding the archers right now. Maybe it's mind games or something. McLuffy is concerned about all this, I'm sure. And McLuffy is going to click up to Castle Age. Gold very far forward. And the bright side for McLuffy is his opponent doesn't know he has skirms. And at least he's going to have a unit that can be helpful against what his opponent will add. Oh, Duve, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would have gone range opening personally. You have to think about the game flow sometimes really far in advance. And I think if Huns go man-at-arms against me, I open with a range just to defend from that. And I'm completely fine with going skirms because if my opponent goes knights with Huns, then I can go camels. But, like, it's really tricky because you could also say you go scouts, your opponent goes spearmen, you go archers, they go knight. I guess, like, either way, the Chinese are going to have an answer to the Huns. But, okay, so cav archers on the way. 3 range commitment. They're cheaper cav archers with the Huns. They're definitely not the strongest cav archers in the game, but they are seen as the strongest cav archers for Castle Age. It's just if the game goes very late, the fact that they're cheap just doesn't feel as strong as like the strength of Magyars or Mongols. But discount is huge. And then you don't have to make houses, right? And still McLuffy's like, what is this? Like, where's his army? The good news for McLuffy, though, is that he didn't completely overreact. Some people would expect crossbowmen, and they would just add a tower, and then that would be a problem. Look at the resources. TC, and we're going to see knights as well. Still very curious here, and now McLuffy's seeing the stable. But I like, even though he doesn't actually see what his opponent's doing, I like the fact that he's looking. I'd like to see Jiao Hai sneak out of these walls here. Jiao Hai's been very patient to build this up. Opponent still investing into some knights, which shouldn't accomplish that much. So maybe McLuffy's thinking my opponent's just booming in here. There's going to be the second TC. You're also going to have a knight for Jiao Hai, who was here a very long time ago. And it's 3 TCs. This is looking better and better right now for the Chinese player. That's probably a confusing statement because Jiao Hai, who's playing as the Huns, is also from China. So let me just say that this is looking better and better for McLuffy. But the knights, not so much. Now you're going to know that you need skirmishers as your focus. And maybe Jiao Hai is going to catch this army out. These are still not elite skirmishers. Oh, this is not going to be good for McLuffy. These skirmishers have no armor. They're not elite yet. The knight was just simply the wrong choice for McLuffy. And now he's like, oh, man. If he would have had the skirms, he could have eventually had knight and elite skirm. But now he's just stuck on knights. As sometimes players are going to consider siege in this spot, too. I like the Scorpion edition in most cases. Went up against the Cavalry Archers. 43 villagers for both. This scout, which is scouting the map, is being chased by a knight, which is kind of funny. All right, so let's talk about important areas of the map. This right here. This whole area right here for McLuffy's huge. And then for Jiao Hai, it's mainly here. Now, you could also say this side, too, because of the stones. So those are things to think about. Our first villager was just killed there, guys. It's the first vill kill in the entire game. Jiao Hai is constantly looking for damage. Is going to see the siege workshop, sees the farmer, misses the farmer. And Scout's still scouting the rest of the map. That's probably why McLuffy has the score lead, because of the additional scouting. But there's not that big of a difference there. Also does have a vill lead, too. Tries to hit the Scorpion, to which McLuffy responds by repairing the Scorpion. And Jiao Hai is going to place a TC on the stone. Ooh, I mean, the wood here is going to be such an issue if there's ever a counterattack. But I think TCing your stone tells me at least that we were going to see a Castle Age castle drop. Now, it might have to be a defensive castle depending on how the game is going. Okay. This is what a couple Scorpions can do. And Xiaohai has to fall back, and the Cav Archers are getting chewed up there, and yep. They're going to need to be in higher number here. Now, if you go full commitment for Cav Archers, sometimes you'll see 4 archer ranges. I personally like 3. Keeping 3 ranges producing is still a pretty big commitment. Also, sometimes you'll see ballistics, but Xiaohai has gone for the town centers for more villagers first. Not sure why these villagers are leaving, though. We have a monk here healing up, which is a nice touch. And McLuffy's food eco is looking really strong. And this is where McLuffy should start getting some techs. I don't think attack matters as much as getting the final armor. Where are those villagers going? Oh, there's the university and then a new lumber camp. This will be ballistics. Remember, Bloodline's already in, so these Cav Archers have 70 HP. There's Chain Barding for McLuffy. Both players doing a great job at spending resources constantly. You've got the Vills and Cav Archers, and then you've got the Vills, Scorpions, Monks, Knights, and then, of course, the upgrades, too. Someone asked if these guys were top 200. Pretty much, yes, pretty much. 150, 200. It really does depend on what you value most. Like, if we're talking ladder, they're around there, and it does depend on their week as well. Obviously, someone like Xiaohai is going to perform worse in tourneys because he plays a lot of the same civs all the time. The tourneys don't exactly allow that. Xiaohai gave up this hill to move forward. And now, like, both players realize that the enemy army is out of position, and they're both trying to find a spot to do damage because of it. In the end, both players are going to end up meeting in the middle. And, ooh, interesting fight here for Xiaohai. I would be so terrified. That is a lot of Knights and Scorpions. But now that Ballistic's in, you can whittle these things down. And look at the Knight distract here. Still tough micro, but I like the idea. Would definitely love to see the Thumb Ring upgrade come in for these Cav Archers. You have enough of them where it's worth it. And, oh, man. Again, with the Scorpions behind, this is so nice for McLuffy. Now, when I saw that town center on the stone, I thought it was going to be all in on stone. It wasn't. So 7 on stone only. A lot of those villagers repositioned. Thumb Ring's now coming in. And there's a 4th range. And we could see monks as well. So this just gets crazier and crazier. McLuffy is adding another stable. McLuffy is on stone. So, guys, this is just ramping up for the big finale. This is as close as it can really get, honestly. And both players are doing what I believe they should do with their compositions. Okay, this is really bad. There's a lot of weak Cav Archers in there. And the last thing you want to do is give up your hill, too, so it's tricky. Okay, McLuffy hoping that the Cav Archers are going to get hit by the Scorpions, and they are. The KD is now 24-24, but one person has the hill. Will the Scorpions do enough, though? Xiaohai's sick of it. Xiaohai says goodbye to that one. Goodbye to this one. Still a lot of HP being lost, though. Plus, the hill advantage is there for McLuffy. The monk will go for conversion and get an important conversion. But the villagers are committing anyways. And it feels like because the Cav Archers have to run, the castle for McLuffy will most likely complete. Most likely complete, I say. Because I'm not 100% on that. But yeah, it looks like Xiaohai sees it. And Xiaohai does not think it's possible to stop it. And Xiaohai is now going to abandon... Well, it's not really abandoning this area. Now it just needs the gold. And this sucks, right? Because your TC can get hit. All this area you need to protect. But then if McLuffy finds these golds, that area is also important. But I think McLuffy needs to think about that. McLuffy needs to think, where did my opponent have gold right now? And he might end up spotting some of this. McLuffy goes for conversion here, which most likely will come in. And that knight might head over there. McLuffy also needed gold control, but that middle castle kind of does that. And McLuffy now clicks up to the Imperial Age, and Xiaohai is going to think about the same. It seems a bit weird, but I think Xiaohai did almost everything right here, except for diving in too close to some of the Scorpions. They almost tried to do too much. And then in the crucial battle, 30% of the army was weak. I love how McLuffy has played this, but I love how Zhao Hai's played it as well. And Zhao Hai is going to want a castle. It's 90 villagers versus 90. 44 army versus 29. And this army from McLuffy is going to head over here because a second ago, there was a scout here that died. At least I think it died. No, it was actually pulled back. It was sitting next to a relic. And Zhao Hai, knowing the scout was there, knowing that he's been seen, is now going to secure this gold. These guys are playing out of their minds here. This is so smart. Great awareness. I think McLuffy, if he loses this game, is going to regret not pressuring this area. Like, this is all very exposed. But you also can't necessarily blame McLuffy for being patient because you're on the way to the Imperial Age with a really nice forward castle. Some Cav Archers, not all, will chase this down. And the production of knights continues here. I think McLuffy's next castle may be over here. But there's a castle going up there for Zhao Hai right now. The knights are going to get in, which would annoy me. Zhao Hai doesn't want to build that university. That was simply to block the knights. And look at McLuffy. He's like using this one to distract as the other ones run over here. But man, is that castle important. And there's 51 Cav Archers right now for Zhao Hai. Again, Hun Cav Archers aren't the strongest, but they are so cheap. And now McLuffy's like, oh crap. Okay, he's got a castle there. I need to make trebs. And those knights went down, but will the Cav Archers be able to deal with the knights once they're upgraded? The knights that's in this mass anyways. I don't want to exaggerate and say it's the closest game ever, blah, 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 blah. This is a really good game, though. The KD is as even as it could be with an odd number of kills, and the economy's even. The relics are not. The long-term gold control is arguably not, though it does depend a lot on how the next couple minutes go. And I think McLuffy's going to see this. Yeah, McLuffy's scout sees these. And McLuffy wants to castle this area because a counterattack is very much a possibility. And I'm not sure that you can actually kill this number of Cav Archers with this army. This is insane. So McLuffy cancels the idea of that castle. I think McLuffy, Zhao Hai will also see that the foundation was deleted. And will have an idea. But now McLuffy says, you want to go to my base? I'm going to go to your base, and what are you going to have there? So we might have a massive base trade here. Who's going to do enough damage? Oh, Imp Armor is in. Castle Age Attack is in. Cavalier's in now. We also have TCs going for this gold on this side. Look at this. You have to. If you're McLuffy, you have to just dive with what you have. You cannot run home now. You have to hope for the best. It's funny how both players do not notice this is happening. But yeah, let's see how this goes. I mean, in theory, I'd say it could be better for Zhao Hai because the TCs are going to help more in this scenario than the TCs will help over here. But I honestly don't know. I mean, now McLuffy's going to get the castle up. McLuffy is killing some vills. Oh my god, again, it's so close. There's tons of wood and there's tons of gold right now for Zhao Hai, which is really important, obviously. And neither player has... Okay, never mind. I guess it was garrisoned before, now McLuffy garrisons again. Oh, this raid is epic as well. This is so sick. And now the Cav Archers are running home for Zhao Hai. But he still has a really large mass maintained, and it's really hard to get the proper amount of villagers back to those farms. Dang, I'd like to see maybe a castle here from Zhao Hai. And actually, this seems to be why Zhao Hai was coming home, because Zhao Hai wants to push the middle castle. But still, this has to be dealt with. Look at all the villagers evacuating for Zhao Hai. And the Cavalier numbers are still strong enough where they cannot be killed. So it's 150 population for both. Massive losses on either side, but the Cavalier, I think, have accomplished a bit more. But the Cav Archers still could be seen as, at least in some ways, unkillable. Remember, though, they only received Bracer and Imp. I don't think we've seen any other Imp upgrades. But it's become tough right now for McLuffy. He doesn't have the food. He's going to spend some food on Masonry to try and hold this position. And now he's going to loop up everything he has. So we've gone from base trades to both players grouping up for one big main boss battle to end the game, possibly. This is sick. I mean, 30 cav versus 50 cav archers that don't have chemistry. At the very least, if you just snipe the trebs, it's probably worth it here. But how much are you going to lose? I think if you're going in here, you go in to snipe the trebs. I'm not sure if you engage against the army, but typically I'm used to chemistry being in. And chemistry not being in is a big deal here. And it's likely that Xiaohai clicked it and thinks that it's enough. But guys, it's not enough. That one extra attack would be so helpful here. And McLuffy holds. So McLuffy will take out the trebs. Has killed quite a few cav archers. And now, I mean, ran out of stone and everything. It's crazy. But now has access to this gold, sort of, kind of. Has access to these golds. And has plenty of food eco. Now, there's a point coming where, like, if if McLuffy, sorry, gets a bit more in the way of eco, then you could see a skirmisher switch. And it's the same thing where if Xiaohai senses that, the Xiaohai would want to go for light cav. But they're both still in a position where they're like kind of at the limit with everything, and they just need to produce with what they can. I love the treb on the TC here. That's really smart. I'm a bit surprised that McLuffy didn't just continue to dive against these cav archers. Remember, 4 relics for McLuffy. And Xiaohai continues to just run away. And yeah, now the cav are going to dive. And yeah, like I said, I feel like the cav are in high enough number to be able to engage here. 39 cav archers in queue? That's not good. 43 now. Oh, God, that could be the game. This area is so important. This area is not, too, and that's where a lot of the villagers are going. Oh, my God. So, let's see. Oh, no way, dude. Are those his original 3 ranges? Okay, he does have some in queue there and here. But sometimes when you're in the thick of things, you create the archery ranges and then you queue up units, but you don't realize how many units you have in queue. Like, someone can do the math on how much wood that is, but I'm sure if Xiaohai could notice in the heat of the moment that Xiaohai would cancel a lot of these and add more ranges. Yeah, I mean, if there were 60 cav archers on the field right now, it'd be a different story, but there's not. What a fun game, though. I was so cool how, like, it was back and forth, and then just all hell broke loose as there was a base trade. Xiaohai's not known for resigning early. He will put up a fight here. He's going to get heavy cav archer now. But again, not having chemistry still hurts you. You're still down -1. You're still -1 attack from what you could have. I've seen crazier comebacks, though. You still have 108 villagers. Could have about 50 heavy cav archers here in a bit. But this is where you got to add those ranges if you're McLuffy. McLuffy, interestingly enough, is actually just going to go Chukonu. So is not going to go skirms. It's just going to go Chukonu as range. Which is very bold, but I guess if you have the relics and you still have all this gold, you could definitely afford it. And also denying gold here. Would love to see maybe another castle there. I have no clue what this castle protects. Maybe he's very fond of these horses or something. Like the family pets. Okay, heavy cav archers in. So now you have 7 base attack as opposed to 6, and you have 80 HP instead of 70. So it's +1 attack, +10 HP. Which isn't a lot considering how expensive heavy cav archer is, but you've got to do something, right? I would assume that there's a few things here that our blue player just has not realized. For example, the chemistry upgrade, and then also the lack of ranges, but... Can you imagine if there was 10 ranges, though? Oh, there's chemistry. Okay, never mind. Population's still pretty high. Problem is, how do you raid McLuffy? Like, it's very difficult to ever do damage to McLuffy's economy, and your economy is just wide open. I'll see a castle here. That castle will most likely go up. Dang, those cav archers are so cheap. All right, Treb's on the way from the corner castle now from blue. And that's because this castle's been noticed. Will be tricky to keep any trebs up, though, if you're in low numbers, because one player has Cavalier, the other player does not. And that obviously is going to add up as well there. What you don't want to do is lose all your army right now if you're McLovey, but you also don't want your opponent to get gold. So let's see how this goes. Oh, imagine if chemistry was in at the start of this fight, and the Chukanu are doing some good damage behind, but all the Cavalier are disappearing. I prefer heavy Cav Archer over Chukanu in a straight-up fight, and especially if the Cav Archers have the hill. Maybe there's still a chance. I mean, and I would have really liked to see Skirmishers instead, because you're going double gold unit, and I don't think the Chukanu accomplish enough to be worth the cost in gold. Now the gold's all disappearing here. You still haven't been able to take this gold. I think Reds maybe thought I had the game won for a while, but all of a sudden, look at the farming eco over here for Xiaohai. Xiaohai has 47 on food, and Xiaohai is going to get light cav now. Again, can't raid this area of the eco too easily, but I guess the left side could be raided. Stone here, gold here. McLuffy had such a good position. Okay, the Cav Archer's going to shift focus. So blue realizing I need to take that castle out. So the CA will be over here. This is something that red now sees. So red's going to go castle this hill. Also is raiding the gold. Now this castle could be denied. It all depends on if red notices right away. Meanwhile, this area has been spotted by McLuffy. Great scouting on the map right now. But it's very possible that this castle gets lost. This castle, however, will go up. I think you take that trade. Oh my god, McLuffy is overbooming. Oh, I didn't realize that. So much like before when I said that you will continually queue up in your archer ranges and sometimes not check to see if you have enough production buildings, this is another thing. This is select all TCs, select all villagers, because you're doing so many different things and you just get into a cycle in your mind of do this, do that, fight, do this, do that. So it's like create army, create villagers, add farms, fight with army. Those four things continuously cycle in your mind. And it's possible, I mean, I know that red's going to lose some now, but red's army isn't looking that exciting to me, despite red's positioning looking very exciting to me. So now Xiaohai's got no gold income, not even one relic. Xiaohai might try and get that in a second. But maybe this is doable. Like, maybe. It's still going to be such a tough task. Like, look at the castles. Boom, protecting important area. Boom, important hill. Boom, important hill. Bam, you're going to take gold. Like, all this stuff is so good for McLuffy. But yeah, if he continues to overboom like this, it could be a problem. I still just feel like the base is so exposed for Xiaohai that eventually McLuffy will wear him down. It's only 100 villagers for Xiaohai, but here comes Xiaohai. This is the key. Your main force has to be snowballing across the map right now. You're not going to be able to do too well here. However, it looks like the TC was repaired and then garrisoned inside. That's kind of funny. This has to be chased down. This has to be chased down, but this push continues. We've got skirms and we've got light cav here from McLuffy. There's 15 Chukanu in the group as well. I don't think the castle's saved, but I think that this army can get dealt with, which stops the siege push from advancing to the other areas, which I think is the most important thing. Yeah, he is not even going to try and save that castle. Look at... This is the second time. I love this player so much. He's such a fun player to play against, too. Is so stubborn. He knows he needs that gold. Okay, might be looking away now. The Trebs could be lost here. Yep. Okay, Trebs get pulled back. That's a big army, though. 70 army now for McLuffy, who may have deleted villagers, actually, if McLuffy realized. Or maybe just lost them to some raids or something. I think the end is probably near for Xiaohai. The Hun late game can be kind of awkward at times. Like, if they get to Hussar and Cav Archer, I would like them maybe a bit more than Chinese, but the Chinese strengths in the mid game and then early Imperial Age typically get them far enough ahead McLuffy did a lot of really smart things in this game, like getting the relics for late game was awesome. The stubbornness with the castle spots was also really smart. And again, he's just like in the position to win this now, and I think just needs to go for the finishing blow. Probably just taking a moment to double check. Like, okay, I've got the TC there. Let's double check the sides. Okay, he's not over there. We'll raid, and he's just... He's not at the limit, whereas the opponent is right now. Still no gold income whatsoever for Zhao Hai. And running out of wood, honestly. Like, this is probably going to start to finish off the game, because that is becoming the only area where wood can be accessed. And then this will be the final nail in the coffin. This starts it off, and then this is the final nail in the coffin. Once this gets killed, if this gets killed, as we have even rocketry from McLuffy, which is going to benefit those Chukanu and elite Chukanu. Dang. Perfect, right? Light Cav go into raid, and then you have the ranged army going for the fight. The Light Cav do have full armor upgrades now, but the Chukanu should be able to take out the Light Cav, and then the skirmishers and the Chukanu can finish off the CA. There's lots of stone for Zhao Hai, but where do you even place a castle? Here you go. That castle's going to stay up. Treb's going to go down, and I think we see the GG call here. And what a game. That was an awesome game. It's hard for me to say that the castle going up here from McLuffy was everything, but if you remember, Zhao Hai had placed a TC on stone in Castle Age, and I talked about how that would lead to an early castle, and then Zhao Hai didn't quite mine the stone in time to get his own castle there. I think Zhao Hai was in a position to do more damage in early Castle Age and was possibly a little bit too hesitant with the Cav Archers. But ultimately, like, McLuffy had really good macro play. The castle positions were probably the most important standout in Imp and late Castle Age. And then, yeah, we had an overboom, but everything else went pretty well. Getting the relics, expanding and taking the extra golds. Still was an awesome game, though. Here's the KD for you. So 377 to 273. I wonder, though, that original fight, if Zhao Hai would have been able to have chemistry, how that would have gone. And I don't think it was necessarily a mistake for him to run to McLuffy's base when he did with that base trade earlier. But if your base is open and exposed for raids, base trading is worse for you if you're up against Cavalier, because one Cavalier can wreck a whole wood line. One Cav Archer takes a bit longer. So it is more potential for the Knight player to spread out a bit. But still, I mean, Zhao Hai put up a really good fight there. The total military count, what was the highest? Army high 70 and 73. That's pretty crazy. You don't see that every day. Like, sometimes you'll see some civilizations reach 70. But both of them is a little bit rare, at least. And again, there's the resources collected. McLuffy macroed more. Obviously overboomed. 85,000 resources collected. I hope people enjoyed this one. I really like to bring these names to you guys because you guys don't get to see these players as much. They're supremely talented, but they're just not at the high enough level where they're making much money off the game and playing deep in tourneys. But they're close. Total Vill height, 232, 217. Almost 500 villagers existed in that game. Wild.